Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Brighton Town Board meeting being held today at noon on December 23rd, 2015. We welcome all of you that are here, but also everyone watching on your computer or on your TV from a remote location. As always, I do want to remind everybody that if you're here in the room, our agenda and all of the supporting materials are in the packet in the table on the rear of the room. But if you're watching remotely and you would like to follow along with us, you can go to the town website, townofbrighton.org, and today's agenda, as well as all of the supporting material for today's meeting, are all available online right there at the town's website. So we welcome your participation, whether you're here in person or watching at home. We'll start with a pledge, and I'll ask Councilman Chris Warner to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chris. Just a couple announcements. First, in case of an emergency, if you do hear the emergency alarm system go off, please leave the room immediately, either through the door to my right. If you go out that door, turn right, go down the stairs to the rear of the building, go out the rear exit of Town Hall, and move away from the building. Or you can go through either the double doors at the front of Town Hall, at sort of the back of this room, through the lobby, out the front entrance to Town Hall, down the steps, and again, away from the Town Hall building. Occasionally we do experience technical difficulties during the live broadcast of these meetings. If you're watching on our cable access channel 12 and you have trouble with either the audio or the video, please contact Time Warner at 756-5000. Again, that's 756-5000. We're going to start today with our open forum. As always, I just want to remind everybody that during the open forum period, members of the audience may address the town board about any matter, whether or not it's on today's agenda. I would note that we do have 2 public hearings on today's agenda, and if you're here to speak to either one of those and you'd like your comments included in the record, please wait until those public hearings are called, and we'll be doing them very shortly. And your comments can be included in the record on those public hearings. But if you do wish to participate in the open forum, I'll recognize you if you just raise your hand. Please come to the podium. If you would, please state your name and address. Please direct your comments to the board and not to other members of the audience. Try to keep your comments as concise as possible, and if you have written comments that you'd like to include in the record, feel free to give them to the town clerk. Now, I would also note that if you are watching remote but would like to participate in the open forum, if you're watching us live, you can call in. The phone number is 303-3060. And someone will take your call and relay your question or your comment to us, and we'll try to answer that. Or, as we always say during the open forum, if it's something we can't address right on the spot, we'll try to get back to you with an answer. If you are deaf or hearing impaired, you can also participate in the open forum through our TDD line. And the phone number for our TDD line is 784-5205. Again, if you're deaf or hearing impaired, would like to use our TDD line to comment or ask a question during the open forum, the number is 784-5205. With that, we'll get started, and can I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. And a motion to approve and file the meeting minutes for the December 9th, 2015 Town Board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? If not, please, Dan, call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. We do have two public hearings today. The first public hearing is to appropriate $90,000 in repair reserve funding to support the Public Safety Wing HVAC project. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been published in that matter?
A notice was in the December 3rd edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you. Then in that case, I declare this public hearing to be open, and I'll ask our Finance Director, Suzanne Zaso, just for a brief description of this item.
Yes. We're currently working on a HVAC project in the Public Safety Week of the Town Hall, and when the engineers first did the study, it wasn't identified that there was some additional work that needs to be done. Specifically, there's a cooling tower that needs to be replaced, and they felt that it's probably best to do that at the same time as doing the other work there in the wing. We did get bids in from several contractors last month, and while the base bids did come within budget, we did borrow money initially for this project, and we had $104,000 set aside for this project, but we need some additional funds if we want to also replace the cooling tower and any potential overruns. We did, per resolution, the board authorized up to $20,000 in change orders if they happen to come across. So this is appropriating $90,000 from our repair reserve since there wasn't any more money left per the bond resolution to borrow any more money for the project. We have about $184,000 in the repair reserve right now, and this reserve was set up about 20 years ago, specifically for items like this, maintenance at the town facility buildings.
And the fact that we're appropriating this money doesn't necessarily mean that it'll all be spent. But,
Right.
ask for that appropriation. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board in this matter? Thank you for that explanation, Suzanne. Any comments from members of the board?
It's just the sort of thing the reserve is there for. It's an unanticipated expense, and hopefully we won't need to spend it all, but the cooling tower should be replaced.
Anything further from the board or from the public? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing to be closed, and can I have a motion? You have a motion in your packet.
Bill, I move that we appropriate the repair reserve funding as indicated of $90,000 in accordance with the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye.
Supervisor, did you ask for if anybody had anything for the open forum?
Yes.
You did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you say that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But in case I missed it,
Okay.
Just while you were coughing.
you know, but in any event, yes.
Sorry, I was guessing.
That's all right.
Dan said I
That-
was coughing at the time.
That's all right. We do have a second public hearing today. It is a public hearing on a proposed stop sign installation on Bonnie Bray Avenue westbound at Glen Ellen Way. I'd like to ask the town clerk again, has legal notice been published in this matter?
Yep. December 3rd edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you very much. I declare this public hearing open. This is a matter that has been the subject of fairly significant discussion in committee. We've met with a number of residents, particularly on Bonnie Bray, who expressed some traffic concerns as they relate to Bonnie Bray. And we've indicated that we will, in addition to this proposal, we will conduct a more thorough review of traffic issues in the Roselawn area. But this was something that was identified by the committee and by the police chief as something that really made good sense from a traffic safety perspective, and we felt it was something we should put before the board right away. So that's the reason it's here in front of you today. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this matter? Anyone on the board that would like to address this matter during the public hearing?
Well, I'd just like to comment that this has been reviewed in the Public Safety Committee, I think since September. And I just want to express my appreciation to the Police Department and to the Public Works Department for the data collection and the review of the various traffic calming measures that were proposed and looked at by the board. And I think it's a good start. So I'm pleased to see that we're at the public hearing stage and that we're ready to take action.
Jason, this replaces a yield sign, is that correct?
Yes.
And Tim, do I recall that you indicated that whenever we put up a stop sign, that means we have to salt that intersection, is that correct?
Well, we salt every intersection to a certain degree, Chris, anyways. But the stops, as we would the yield, because you do have to have control coming into the intersection, whether you have to stop or yield. So it really won't change our dynamics of how we treat the intersection, aside from the fact that, vehicles should be coming to a complete and full stop before proceeding. I do have one communication I received, Supervisor.
Okay.
I can provide this to the town clerk. If you care to, I can read it for the record.
Perfect.
Okay. And it was unsigned, dropped off just this morning, but I think it's well done in the manner of David Letterman, the top 10 reasons why we should have more stop signs at Rose Park.
I would note, the fact that it's an unsigned communication, we have, as a policy, it's important that material that comes into a public hearing be able to be identified. We try to be very open, but I think it's very important, and it has been important to the civility that we've always seen here on the board, that we do not include unsigned, anonymous material into the meeting. So I appreciate the humor, but I think we can all think about some good reasons that we've taken the actions we've done in committee to review this matter. But I would ask that we not include this into the public record.
Very good.
Thanks.
One thing that became clear at the public safety is that, unlike with the yield sign, with the stop sign, the police can ticket if the people do not adhere to it.
Well, the police can ticket at a yield sign too, but Mark, I'll let you address.
I can address it from an info. My support for the stop sign is not based upon traffic tickets. I do believe it's a calming. It will have a calming effect on the street itself in question. From a enforcement perspective, a stop sign, there's more action that has to occur with a complete stop as opposed to a yield, and that's why I'm on the record supporting the change from a yield to a stop. And I know the entire circle, if you will, is going to be looked at, and that would be my recommendation at the time as well, that the yield signs do offer some traffic control. The stop sign offers a better traffic control. So.
Great. Any other questions or comments, either from the audience or from the board? Hearing none, then I declare this public hearing to be closed, and I would ask for a motion. Louise.
In the matter of installation of a stop sign at Bonnie Bray Avenue, westbound at Glen Ellen Way, I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeBonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Committee reports, Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Recreation Community Services has not met since the last meeting. The next meeting will be January 18th at 4:30 p.m. at Brookside. The public is welcome.
Thank you. Chris?
Finance Administrative Services met on the 15th, last Tuesday. All of the matters discussed are on tonight's agenda, this afternoon's agenda, and we'll discuss them there. But our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, January the 1st. No, this says the 1st, but this is
Did I write first? I thought I'd double check that.
No,
Fifth.
it's not.
Maybe the 5th. It's the 5th.
Fifth.
the 5th. January the 5th at 3:30 p.m.
Thank
The
you.
public is welcome.
Great. Jason, Public Safety?
Yes, Public Safety Committee has not met since our last town board meeting. Our next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, January 12th. We meet at 8 o'clock in the morning in the lower level community meeting room, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you. Public Works, Jim is not here, but
As Vice Chair, it has not met. The next meeting is upcoming. I believe it is also on Tuesday, the 5th, and let me verify that, though. Yes, we have a Public Works on January the 5th at 9 o'clock a.m. in the downstairs meeting room.
thank you. That sums up the committee reports as we will be, at the organizational meeting, we will be working through the committees, reforming and making some changes in membership on some of those committees. We've discussed that, and we always look to, keep those committees running as effectively as we can, and I think they perform a very valuable service, and we've seen it just most recently, as you've mentioned, with the Public Safety Committee. Residents of the Roselawn neighborhood that did come out took the time to share their thoughts with us. We had the same thing on the Public Works side, the residents along the Brook side, the Brooklawn Drive, in the streets that come off of that, Susquehanna, Newcrest, and the others, the discussion of drainage issues in those neighborhoods. So those committee meetings really are a valuable way to drill down into issues.
And people should be reminded that sometimes the activity here seems a little summary. That's because all of the discussion, the in-depth discussion, occurs at those committee meetings. So if you really want to have your input and opinions heard, that's the place to come, and you'll find a very active and in-depth discussion.
Although, as always, we welcome input here, too.
Absolutely.
Chris, new business, reading and approval of the claims.
Bill, tonight I reviewed claims. Again, this afternoon I reviewed claims totaling $559,444.53. Those that caught my eye, I see we rented Frosty the Snowman for $77. And that Happy Feet Soccer put on a program for 11 of our young athletes for $485. Some of the bigger claims, medical premiums, $228,000. The library cost share with the Monroe County, actually the general library system, $28,425. First invoice I recall seeing from Stantec regarding Palazzo Plaza, which is being paid by the developer, some $3,955. Stantec is reviewing that application from our perspective. And I see November asphalt, $46,684. A lot of asphalt went down in November, apparently. Last, and Tim, maybe you can tell us about this, the compression testing of the pervious concrete that went on. How does that work?
Actually, Chris, what we did, as we typically do with a lot of the concrete that we pour, there's a certain strength you want to have in a concrete. So the testing, you send it to a testing lab, and then they break the cylinders, and they can tell you what it actually is based on the poured conditions versus theoretical. Now, the one thing that we do know is that the porous concrete is not as strong as normal concrete. However, I think they came up to about 2,500 PSI, which normally we would be 3,000 or 4,000, depending on what we would spec. So it's not quite as strong, but it is fairly strong. And we've actually had some field observations down along the avenue on some of the projects where we've had truck traffic come in, and it's holding up very well at this point. So it is something that we do like to do just to make sure we do get a product that, if it had come in substantially weak, if you want to call it that, then we knew we would have problems and probably have to replace it.
And the pervious concrete is new to us.
That is correct.
Haven't it, Jeff?
Yeah, it's part of our green infrastructure, and it should work very well. And it is our first experience, so we are, sort of excited to see how it's going to perform long term.
Great.
Thanks, Tim. But with that, I find the claims to be in order, and I move that they be approved for payment.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Next item, Bill, is for approval to declare a copier determined to be no longer serviceable or with any remaining value, and declare it to be surplus and disposed of as junk. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVanzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason?
Yes, Bill, the next matter seeks approval to renew the Brighton Police Department agreements for towing services. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion on that?
These are the same vendors we've used in the past, Mark. We've had good success with them.
They are. Part of our contract requires specific equipment, and not every tow vendor has the equipment that's required for the emergency services. These tow vendors have agreed to stock the equipment and have also agreed to be able to respond in a timely fashion, especially if there's a crash at the 12 corners that's blocking traffic. We have to have a quick response, and these vendors are long-term vendors. They agree to meet the terms and condition. The pay structure is set by the sheriff's office, and it's pretty much used countywide. And everything that you said, I know I was not at your FASC meeting, but everything that's in the contract has been an extension of previous year's contracts.
And this resolution itself calls for the opportunity for the town to extend for up to 3 additional
Yes, I think we
one-year periods without
forgot to
further
do
action.
that last time, and that's why we're back here again this year. So,
Very good. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVanzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Next item, Bill, is for approval to transfer funds, some $4,100 from various highway department accounts into the highway traffic signs markings account to support some unanticipated cost in pavement markings. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVanzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to authorize supervisor to execute agreements with various stenographers to provide court steno services for 2016. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
The stenographers are Frank Scarcelli and Edith Forbes, and they will be continuing their hourly rate of $40 an hour. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVanzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Next item, Bill, is to seek approval to award a bid to Pipitone Enterprises, LLC, to provide HVAC improvements to the public safety wing with authorization to execute associated agreements and change orders not exceeding $20,000 by the supervisor. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
And this is the project that was the subject of our discussion earlier with the funding through the repair reserve. Tim, if you can give one last update on this project. I know you've spoken about it a couple of times here.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. This is a much-needed project over in the Public Safety Wing. As discussed previously, and certainly in concert with the chief and the police department, particularly because of some modifications from the original construction. The age of the equipment needs to be replaced. We're finding that many of the heat pumps are now obsolete. This is an opportunity for us to bring the facility up to much better conditions as far as zoning and humidity problems that have been experienced. So again, it should make for a good project from the standpoint of our employees, but also the functioning of that particular wing.
Great.
I have a question.
Sure.
And it's also for, to authorize you to execute associated agreements and change orders not to exceed 20,000. What do they mean by execute associated agreements, and usually the change orders are not to exceed 10,000.
Actually, usually they're not to exceed 10%, so this is substantially less than the 10% that we normally have. And the associated documents simply are if there are any other, side documents. I don't know that we anticipate them, but on an agreement this size, there can be, whether they're, guarantees or the like. But the basic agreement is to enter into the agreement with Pipitone for the primary, the base bid, but also for that cooling tower portion of the project that Suzanne mentioned.
I know the town engineer was going to check with one of the bidders regarding a very high bid on that first alternative.
Yeah, we did. In fact, both the town engineer and the town attorney were involved in that discussion. Based on what we determined, there may have been, by that vendor, a mistake, frankly, on their part, but after review of applicable competitive bidding laws, we
Couldn't
have
go
to,
back to them.
that's right, we have to honor their actual bid.
Pipitone is the low bidder, particularly with the two alternatives, so.
Right, well, we're not doing the second alternative, the after-hours work, it's just the one alternative for the cooling tower. Yep. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions on that? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item, also discussed at FASC, was to authorize the supervisor to execute an engagement letter with Raymond F. Wager CPA PC for the 2015 year-end independent audit and accounting and policy compliance for 2016. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
You may recall a couple of years ago, we've been with the Wager firm for quite some time. We issued a request for proposals, and their firm and several other accounting firms submitted proposals. The Wager firm was the lowest. We obviously had a lot of experience with the quality of their work. They also gave us a schedule for several years, and this proposed fee for the 2015 year-end service and for other compliance services in 16 is consistent with the proposal that they submitted to us. Suzanne has primary day-to-day contact with the firm, particularly during the audit period, and I know Suzanne supports continuing to work with their firm. Thank you. Anything further? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute a renewal agreement with Brighton Volunteer Ambulance to provide services for the year 2016. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Town and Country Cleaners to provide police uniform dry cleaning and laundering services. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
Mark, we've used Town and
Great,
Country.
yeah. Town and Country, and for years they have not raised rates. I think there's a minor increase. Yeah. Yeah, maybe, well, no.
Good. Well, you're pleased with their service. I see their truck coming and going, and
That's one of the stipulations of the contract, is the ability to deliver, because we are a 24/7 operation, and one of the bidders a long time ago could not provide that, but Town and Country could, so very pleased.
great. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Again, discussed at FASC. This is to authorize the supervisor to execute a shared service agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation to provide emergency assistance services valued under $10,000 in the absence of a governor's emergency declaration for 2016. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
This is something new for this year, and as Chris noted, we did discuss it at the Finance Committee, but we literally received word of this new program about half an hour before that meeting started. But this is an opportunity somewhat similar to what we already do here locally, but the state DOT will commit, even in the absence of a formal emergency declaration, if there are emergency circumstances where state equipment or personnel can be helpful, so long as the cost does not exceed $10,000, they will endeavor to provide that service for us. I think if it gets over 10,000 in value, and this is not something that we are paying for, they will provide those services, and higher level services we would only kick in if there was an actual emergency declaration.
And the accompanying letter, it indicated it was to trade services.
Correct. That, if necessary, as we do, if there were a situation where our equipment, would be helpful, we would agree that they could call on us, and if it was something we could do, there's no mandate in the contract that says you have to drop everything when they call. It's a fairly open-ended agreement, but again, that's similar to the existing understanding that all of the highway superintendents here in the county have, and.
Is that for any road?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Okay.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to set a public hearing of January 13th, 2016, for consideration of a request from LaChase Construction Company for temporary amendment to noise law for work associated with the University of Rochester's Imaging and Medical Office Building. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is, as we periodically do, when we become aware of projects that may involve work hours that extend beyond the hours allowed for construction work in our noise law. We hold a public hearing, one, to make people in the community aware that this is a possibility, but two, to have a dialogue with the contractor and or the project owner about the work, and to make sure that any work that's going to be done impacts the community in as minor a way as possible, while at the same time allowing the contractor to do work. And this is something that we've had communications, and I believe we have a representative of LaChase here this afternoon. Thank you for coming. And it's something we've discussed. This is the imaging building that is currently under construction by the U of R. It's the first building being constructed in the property that was rezoned institutional plan development district under our incentive zoning approved not that long ago. And the work in question are concrete pours. And although pouring the concrete itself doesn't, is a matter of a few hours, particularly this time of year with cold temperatures, curing of the concrete takes longer. So we've gotten this request from LaChase Construction for this, extension of hours and really terms of our noise law to facilitate the work that's being proposed. And in particular, they have asked that they be allowed to do work during the time period of January 18th through February 26th. They anticipate that 1 or 2 times during those weeks, concrete pours will occur, and the curing of that concrete will require work to continue past the normal 7 p.m. quitting time for night work. They'll be pouring not only the first, second, and third floors, but also a roof floor where they will also have to use temporary light plants. Those light plants, and I believe only those light plants, will be powered by a generator, and they have agreed that that generator will be one with a noise rating of 70 decibels measured at a distance of 50 feet. That's better noise performance than what our code requires, but because this work would be done at night, obviously the noise is one of the significant issues. The lights that the generator will power, because lights, particularly on the roof, will be required during that work. Again, they've indicated that those lights will be no more than 10 feet in height above the building surface, and of course directed away from residential property. The closest residences are several hundred feet away. They will also agree not to use equipment such as jackhammers, nail guns. I don't know that you use nail guns in a concrete project, but we have some particular provisions that we always use to make sure that noise impacts are as limited as possible. So we have this letter and the proposed law. It's my understanding that we really expect the night work to only occur Monday through Friday, and this is not a public hearing now. We will be holding a formal public hearing. So unless we have some more significant questions, I won't ask you to come up to the podium. But I understand you do believe that February 26th is a date by which this work will be completed. And you understand that before the work begins, a letter will be sent either by you or by the university to property owners within 1,000 feet of the project, advising them of this, and that there would be a public meeting of the neighborhood to discuss the fact that this work is being done. And the outside hour of work that's being requested is midnight. I know we'll have an opportunity for further discussion, but maybe we can ask you, the midnight time frame, and if you don't mind coming up to the podium, and we'll have you state your name. Again, this is not a public hearing, but the midnight time request. Work would begin is able to begin at 7 in the morning. Obviously, weather conditions, we can't expect that we're going to continue to have this great run of warm weather. So if you could just talk a little bit about the midnight and whether you really need it to go that late, or if there's an earlier amount of time that would work for you.
I'm John Grady from LaChase Construction. We put the midnight on there due to the fact that we can't control the weather, and if we have any weather conditions on the days that we're pouring, the two pours that we're really concerned about are the roof deck pours. It really exposes us to Mother Nature. We're going to attempt to do those first so that we can continue to enclose the building. By the time we get to the interior pours, the third, second, and ground floor, we anticipate having a significant amount of the exterior shell enclosed, which will block us from the weather, and we'll be utilizing temporary heat, which we have an application into the fire marshal's office for. So it's really we're really concerned about the first two pours, because that is what's actually going to be exposed to the weather. After that, we'll be utilizing temporary heat, and we couldn't be sure if we could meet the 7 o'clock, so we're being proactive in our request, so that we stay in good standing with the town of Brighton on this project.
My
So
I'm sorry.
we don't anticipate all the pours going real late, just the initial 2 pours.
My understanding that primarily it's the operation of the lights that will require generators.
Correct.
And so it's the generators that will create this additional sound to a large extent, and a power trowel, it indicates,
That's correct,
in the curing process.
yes.
And I understand too that the actual pouring of the concrete, which is going to be done, during the daytime hours, basically in the morning, also, there's some noise generated from that work as well, but that's going to be done during normal.
That'll be all
Work
complete
hours.
during normal business hours. It would be the curing time and the finishing process. And yes, we will be using a power trowel. We took decibel readings on another pour that we performed about 2 days ago. At about 50 feet, we were at 70 decibels. And the 2 light plants that we're planning on using are ultra-quiet generators on them. So they're actually at 68 decibels.
Louise?
There's a lawnmower.
Sorry.
I have that answer if you can.
Not that I intend to cut my grass at midnight, but
If I'm not mistaken, a lawnmower's at 85 decibels.
And that's also at 50 feet, or,
That is at 50 feet, correct?
Louise, you had a question?
Yes, most of the time when this comes up, the concern from neighbors is the backup noise of trucks, the beeping that trucks do. Are you going to have any of that happening?
The only equipment that will be running at that time will be the power trowel and the 2 light plants. There will be no other equipment operating at that time.
Okay.
And to further answer your question about midnight, the closer we get to the end of the pour, we'll be covering the slabs with heated blankets, as well as doing a flatness test on the concrete, which that's a pretty quiet operation. Just people.
Understanding that this isn't the public hearing, but I'd be interested in hearing about different noise mitigation measures that can be implemented while this work is going on in order to reduce the impact to that residential neighborhood. I'm thinking of Southland Drive. If you go down and you look right through those woods, you can see the new construction, and I know those residents are very interested in what goes on over there.
I can answer some of that now if you'd like.
Should we wait?
Sure.
Okay.
We may ask you again in
That's
3
fine.
weeks.
Beginning Monday, we're going to be the way the project's been designed and planned out, we will be setting exterior wall panels starting next week. So by the time we get to the first pour, and it has a 42-inch parapet wall that goes around the roof deck, we will have the west side complete, and we should have the south side complete, which faces...
Which is probably the most important from the
With-
neighborhood perspective.
Correct. And then we'll be working on the east side is to help shield that noise and block that noise and keep it going north away from the residents.
Great.
Just to add a couple little, Louise asked about backup alarms. There are backup alarms on the pump truck and the cement trucks, and those trucks will be presumably done with their work on the site by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that correct?
But it's,
That is correct.
but it seems to me it probably is appropriate when we consider the actual law itself, and I'm not sure we have the backup alarm disabled language in here. Just so there's no question about that, it seems to me that's probably worth having as we consider the actual law.
Right. I think that the law as drafted now requires as a condition that all placement activities, which would involve the use of the pump truck and the cement trucks, be completed by 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
It does, yep.
And so once those pieces of equipment are done, there is nothing else that would have a backup alarm. I'm reticent to ask a contractor to disable a safety mechanism on their machinery.
Okay.
If I could just answer, somebody asked about the decibel rating, and I pulled some information off the internet. Average normal conversation at 3 feet is anywhere from 60 decibels to 65 decibels, and will only be 5 decibels above that. And if you look at decibel ratings, to be able to determine that there's a differential
is a 3 decibel differential. So once you hit 3 decibels, at that point you can tell it's a little bit louder, and we'll be able to maintain 70 decibels at 50 feet, and our closest resident is almost 500 feet away.
This is not taking into account the mitigation of the wall, et cetera.
That is not taking into account any of that. That is correct.
I had a motion being made by Louise. Who seconded?
Chris?
I do have a request for both of you. I'm looking at the resolution that I drafted. I see that I'm asking us to go back in time and hold this public hearing on January 13th of 2015. Suggest a friendly amendment to modify that to 2016 if you are both.
Good catch.
Sounds good.
Yes, that's fine with me.
Please, is that okay?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, any questions? Thank you very much. Very, very helpful information. And if you're able to be here again for the public hearing on the 13th, that would be very helpful again. We have a motion and a second. Nothing further. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matters of the supervisor, we have the expenses and revenues for the month ending November 30th. We're getting close to year end, but we will have the full presentation of the quarterly report once December is finished. So all we have now is a motion to receive and file the November report prepared by the Finance Department. Can I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. This is the last town board meeting of 2015, and I appreciate all the work, certainly by our staff that attends these hearings, by all of you board members for being as responsive and engaged as you are, but especially to the people that attend these meetings, whether you do so in person or whether you're watching at home. You know, open government is very nice, but if no one walks in the door, somehow the point is lost. And I certainly would be remiss if I didn't specifically thank Judy Schwartz for your ongoing participation, not only by attending our meetings, but also your volunteer role sitting on one of our community boards. So thank you very much for that. But thank you for all the people that have come out and been a part of our meetings throughout the year. We hope you'll continue to do so. I do want to note that thanks to the great weather, we have been able to continue doing some work on some projects. I want to note in particular, and I just was watching the work that's going on the trail, the Brickyard Trail across the street. It is remarkable how much progress they have made. They have basically laid the base of gravel, stone for the trail. It's not done. There's more work to be done. But I know you've been very pleased with the contractor and the project manager, Tim. You've been working with them on a daily basis. And so we're fortunate for the weather. We're looking forward to seeing that project get finished. But you've been working on some more work on the GIGP on Monroe Avenue. Did some work here along Elmwood. But anything you'd like to say about?
Bill, I have to say that at the end of March, we were pretty much decimated on our snow and ice budget. and I can't tell you how sweet it's been the last 2 months that we virtually, I think we've been out once. That's nice because we were all staring at what ifs. That we would have had expenses that we hadn't budgeted for. So we certainly take that into account. And it's also allowed us to keep the Packer truck out circulating through town. We do have one bulk crew that is out there, but not quite as consistently. But as you said, we're out there doing things. We're anticipating projects. We're working on catch basins for next year's road projects already. And we're trying to take advantage of the mild weather. We may even get back out on Monroe Avenue if the long-term projection allows us to do that. So we're quite pleased with the ability to keep going. So just to, for everybody's edification, we're not sitting around twiddling our thumbs waiting for the snow. We're still working like crazy.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Matters of the attorney.
I have nothing other than to wish everyone a happy holiday and encourage everyone to celebrate well and safely.
Thank you. Matters of the clerk.
Well, just end of the year means we're coming up to property taxes. So just a few notes coming up. The bills will probably be in the mail by the county on the 30th or 31st. So if you don't see them in your mailboxes by Friday, January 8th, please contact my office. It's probably lost in the mail somewhere. I don't want you to get a surprise later on. Early pay for those who take advantage will be open until 6 p.m. on New Year's Eve on the 31st to accept payments for the folks who take advantage of that program. Bills should be online at monroecounty.gov either the 30th or the 31st. County is also rolling out a software change with this next cycle. So part of that is taking the main part of their attention right now. And hopefully that'll be rolled out, actually hoping today, but we will see. And of course, as always, we've got our M&T branches here in Brighton, so on Monroe Ave and on Clinton, that you can make your payments at. It opens up Saturdays as another option, for folks who need to do that. And lastly, is a cost savings measure. In the fall, our bank, M&T, had announced that they were going to begin charging from some of the services they've traditionally provided for free. So courier services and some of our lockbox processing, the receipting and some of those things. So tax receipts are now only going out for those folks who have escrow accounts. So if you pay your maxes via escrow, by law, we have to mail those receipts out. Other receipts are no longer going to be sent. It's saving us just north of $10,000 by avoiding mailing out those receipts. Folks that call and request them, we will still send them. We try to send out via email as much as we can to control costs.
And of course, people that pay in person.
Or if you pay in person, you walk out
Right
with a
on that.
receipt. Absolutely. Always love to see folks in the building, and that's good. You can always also download the receipts yourself off of the county's website. And it's obviously available 24/7. And any questions, reach out to my staff, 784-5240, and we're happy to walk you through how to do that. So hopefully as we continue to move more electronic, this will continue. And I've noticed even just in the last 4 years that I've been here, we've gotten many more requests for electronic copies of bills and receipts. It's steadily increasing. So I think it will have less of an impact as time goes on, but that was a big chunk of change that they were, dropped on us fairly suddenly last fall. So, we're looking again as we go forward to find other ways to improve that. One of the things you will notice, the last thing I'll say is the one thing you will notice on your bill is we're no longer using the P.O. box. That was one of the parts of this with the courier. It was going to the P.O. box. The courier was picking that up for us every day at the post office. Without the courier for the majority, we're only going to be using the courier for a short period of time, about a month actually. So rather than us having to do an additional stop and run to the post office every day, it was a vestige of a day gone by, and it just kind of continued. And when we were looking at it, we realized we really didn't need it. Mail comes here every day too, so why bother with the extra step and expense there as well? So those will be coming right here. So if you've got that saved in the online bill pay that you shouldn't be using, make sure you update it. We're going to keep the box open this year because the last time we had a change, it took about 3 cycles for people to catch up with it. So we're going to keep it open this year and just send gentle reminders that for folks that send it to the wrong place. But that's it.
Thanks, Dan. Matters of the town board?
Just want to make sure that I wish everybody a happy holidays. Be careful, be safe, and be safe in your house as well.
I wanted to just note that this is, I'm now completing my fourth year, my first term on the town board, along with Councilperson DePonzio as well, who started at the same time I did. I've enjoyed that these 4 years. I understand we're going to be making some changes in our committee structure. I'm looking forward to that as well, and I appreciate the community's support in electing both of us to a second term. And I think I know what I'm doing now, and I'm looking forward to, but I understand I'll be assigned to the Community Services Committee, and I really look forward, I'm excited about that change, and perhaps getting the community out and helping around town.
Thanks, Chris.
Just to follow my colleague, time flies when you're having fun. It's a quick
Absolutely.
4 years, but I'm looking forward to serving another 4 years with my colleagues, as well as the exceptional staff we have here at Town Hall. Definitely makes our job a lot easier. And I would join my colleagues in wishing everybody a happy holiday and a happy new year.
It has been fun. It's 4 years for me as well, even though my terms are 2 years, so it's been great working with both of you, and of course with Louise, and Jim is with family out of town today, but again, it's a pleasure working with all of you, and as I said earlier, with staff. I do, for everybody that does celebrate Christmas, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, happy holidays for everybody, a very happy New Year, and yes, please, a safe New Year, particularly driving. Protect yourself, but protect the pedestrians in this warm weather. People are definitely walking, people are definitely riding their bikes. It gets dark early. Please be very careful in all of your holiday celebrations. But I hope they're wonderful. I look forward to seeing you all again in the new year. We will be holding our annual organizational meeting of the town board on Monday, January 4th, right here at noon. And our next regular meeting of the Brighton Town Board will be on January 13th, 2016, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And again, thank you very much. Have a happy new year.